Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure to drop your thoughts and lessons from this story in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. I met Simone on a rainy Thursday in downtown Chicago. At a tech networking mixer I almost skipped. I was there representing my small cybersecurity firm, exhausted from a long week. She glided in wearing a simple black dress, natural curls framing her face, eyes bright like she already knew where she was going. She laughed at my dry joke about firewalls and passwords, then asked thoughtful questions about my work. By the end of the night, we were at a quiet table, talking dreams, childhoods, and futures that felt like they might actually fit together. From the beginning, Simone seemed like everything I had prayed for, but never trusted I would actually receive. She listened when I talked about my mother's health issues back in Detroit, about building my business from nothing, about being tired of casual, empty relationships. She shared her own story of working her way through college, helping her younger brother stay off the streets, and her plans to open a wellness studio. Her empathy felt so natural, so precise. Every insecurity I carried, she addressed gently, like she had been sent just to heal me. Our first few months together were a highlight reel. She brought lunch to my office just because, texted me encouraging messages before client meetings, and bragged about me to anyone who would listen. My friends said I looked lighter, more hopeful. My father, a cautious man, told me not to rush, but he liked that Simone asked about his favorite jazz records. I remember thinking, maybe this is what stability feels like. I started picturing her at future family barbecues, in holiday photos, as the woman I would eventually call my wife. The first red flag came wrapped in tears and urgency. Simone called late one night, voice shaking, saying her mother's landlord was threatening eviction. She said she had miscalculated some bills, that she was short just a few $100s. I heard shame in her voice and rushed to reassure her. I transferred the money without hesitation. Told her we were a team, that she did not need to cry alone. She thanked me over and over, promising she would pay me back when things stabilized. I did not even bother to track it. After that, little emergencies began to cluster around her life like magnets. A car repair that had to happen today. A cousin whose tuition suddenly fell through. A laptop that died right before a supposed big freelance project. Each time, she had a perfectly detailed story ready, complete with names, dates, and believable circumstances. Each time, her eyes would glisten, her voice would tremble, and she would insist she hated asking. I told myself generosity was part of love, even as I noticed my savings app sending quiet warning notifications. I work in cybersecurity, which means I almost never take anything at face value. But love is a different kind of vulnerability, and that truth terrified me. Still, habits were hard to break. When she borrowed my laptop one afternoon, just to check some emails, I watched her out of the corner of my eye. She was careful, almost too careful. When my banking app sent a login alert later from a nearby device, I brushed it off. I changed my password, more out of reflex and suspicion, and told myself not to be paranoid. It was a small slip that finally unsettled me. Simone told me she was at her mother's house on the west side, caring for her during a flare-up of some illness. Later that night, she posted a story of a rooftop bar with her girls, but tagged no one. The timestamp overlapped exactly when she claimed she was cooking soup by her mother's bedside. When I asked about it, she laughed and said it was an old video she had forgotten to post. Her smile was confident, but her eyes did not quite meet mine. That night, an old memory kept me awake. Years ago, I had loaned a former girlfriend money to fix her credit, only to discover she had opened accounts in my name. It took months to repair the damage. I promised myself I would never again hand anyone the keys to my financial life. So as Simone slept beside me, breathing evenly, I stared at the ceiling and felt two truths battling inside me. I loved this woman, and something about her story did not add up. Love made me want to trust. Experience told me to prepare. The next day, I quietly ordered my own credit reports and froze all three. I moved a significant portion of my savings into a separate account at a different bank and updated all my passwords using a secure generator. Then I turned on advanced alerts. Sign-ins, transfers, failed attempts. It felt ridiculous, like preparing for a storm under a clear sky. But in my line of work, you never wait for the breach to start building defenses. I told myself that if I was wrong, no one would ever need to know I had done any of this. Around that time, Simone's tone toward money began to change. Instead of shyly asking, she spoke like she was already entitled to my help. She made comments about how a real partner invests in the person they love. She pointed out friends whose boyfriends had given them startup money, cars, and luxury trips. She framed it as vision, as us building together. When I hesitated over a bigger request, she pouted, then snapped that I was still stuck in a scarcity mindset. The word stung. I started to feel guilty for even wanting to protect myself. Her big pitch arrived one Sunday evening, while we cooked together in my apartment. She laid out a folder of printed pages, mock-ups for a wellness and beauty studio, projected revenue, an Instagram strategy, and a proposed timeline. Her plan was polished, convincing, and full of my name. She wanted me to invest a substantial amount, help her get a small business loan, and, most importantly, co-sign the lease so she could qualify. She talked about us building generational wealth and working side by side. On the surface, it sounded like everything I had ever wanted. But as I flipped through the pages, I noticed something small but familiar. A logo from a business template I had seen before, lifted from a generic site. Some sections were copy-pasted, complete with another name forgotten in the margins. My chest tightened. When I asked more probing questions, Simone's patience evaporated. She accused me of treating her like a suspect instead of a partner. She stormed out, slamming the door, then texted apologies hours later, blaming stress and fear of failure. I told her we could revisit the conversation. Secretly, I began documenting everything. From then on, I kept quiet but observant. I screenshotted text threads about money, saved voice notes where she described emergencies, and forwarded her emails to a private folder. I copied the contract she wanted me to sign and sent it to my attorney friend, Marcus. After 5 minutes of skimming, he called and said, "This is written to leave you holding the bag if anything goes wrong, and it will." I asked him to help me draft a new agreement, one that made my funds a secured loan, not a blind investment, and placed everything under controlled LLC. When I presented the revised agreement to Simone, she barely glanced at it before rolling her eyes. "You do not trust me," she said flatly. "Why would I sign something that treats me like a risk?" I countered that any serious entrepreneur expected paperwork. She called me cold, calculated, and traumatized. The argument spiraled, ending with her accusing me of not loving her enough to take a leap. I apologized for my tone, but not my caution. She eventually agreed to look over the papers. I watched her slip them into her bag with a tight, unreadable smile. A few days later, my phone buzzed with a fraud alert from a lender I did not recognize, regarding an application I had supposedly submitted. My stomach dropped. When I called, they confirmed someone had attempted to open a line of credit using my information, but the application flagged because of my frozen reports and security settings. The representative mentioned the listed email address, one digit off from Simone's. I thanked them, hung up, and sat in my parked car for a long time. Fear washed through me, followed by a cold, focused clarity. This was no misunderstanding. I went home and watched Simone carefully that evening. She acted normal, affectionate even, dropping gentle hints about her business dreams, asking whether I thought more about us taking the next step. I realized with a quiet horror that I was loving someone who could steal from me while holding my hand. Still, I did not confront her. Instead, I made an appointment with a financial crimes investigator I knew through a past client. I gathered my documents, my screenshots, my alerts, and asked a simple question. If someone I love is running a scheme, how do I prove it? The investigator, a calm woman named Parker, listened without judgment. She told me romance-based fraud was more common than most people imagined, especially among professionals who believed they were too smart to fall for anything. She advised me not to alert Simone yet. Instead, she suggested allowing the pattern to continue under controlled conditions while they monitored activity. It felt cruel, like setting a trap for someone I once imagined marrying. But I had already seen the line she was willing to cross. I had to know how far she was planning to go, so I created bait. I mentioned a bonus I supposedly had coming, casually leaving my phone screen visible with a fake banking notification. I forgot my checkbook on the coffee table, with a partially filled check tucked inside. I let Simone overhear part of a conversation with Marcus about a larger account. We needed a structure. Every move was reported to Parker, every unusual call or login attempt logged. I hated myself a little for performance, but I hated the idea of losing everything I built and possibly letting her harm someone else even more. Around that same time, I discovered another layer of betrayal that left me breathless. Simone's phone lit up one night while she showered, the preview showing a message from a contact saved as Coach. The text read, "Did he bite yet? You have to push harder, babe." My chest tightened. My hands shook as I scrolled. What I found were threads of strategy, discussions of what to say, how much to ask, how to guilt-trip me, and even suggestions on how to react if I grew suspicious. There were romantic messages, too, confirming she was not just scamming me financially. I did not smash her phone, scream, or throw her out that night. Instead, I put it back exactly where I found it, sat on the edge of the bed, and felt something inside me go very still. The love I felt did not vanish. It hardened into something else, resolve. By the time Simone came out of the bathroom, wrapped in my towel and smiling like nothing was wrong, I had already forwarded the messages to my hidden email and sent them to Parker. I kissed her forehead, even as my heart silently shattered in my chest. The next big move came 2 weeks later. Simone suggested we open a joint account for our future studio expenses and travels, insisting it would prove we were serious about building together. I agreed, but what I actually set up was a controlled account limited to a specific amount I could afford to lose. I wired a modest sum, then gave her a debit card linked to that account alone. The rest of my money remained locked away, shielded. She lit up like Christmas when the card touched her hand, thanking me for believing in her. I felt sick. Within 48 hours, alerts began flying in. Charges hit from high-end boutiques, a luxury spa, and a fancy downtown restaurant. Every transaction was bigger than the last, all flagged in real time. Simone had told me she needed the money to secure a rental space deposit and buy equipment. Instead, she was burning through it as if racing a clock. I sat in my office, watching each alert come in, sending screenshots of Parker and feeling pain twist through my ribs. It was no longer just the money. It was the proof that I had never mattered beyond what I could provide. Parker moved quickly, using the transaction timestamps and locations. Her team coordinated with local law enforcement to pull camera footage and build a case. They cross-referenced Simone's movements with other complaints in the system and discovered my situation was not unique. There were 2 other men with similar stories, different cities, but the same patterns and even some of the same phrases. Simone was part of a larger, organized scheme. Learning that almost broke me. I had told myself I was special to her, even in betrayal. Realizing I was just one of several projects burned deeply. The morning of the arrest, I knew something was coming, but not the details. Parker only said, "Stay reachable." Simone texted that she was running errands, sending me a selfie from her car with a heart emoji. My chest tightened. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was a number I did not recognize. A calm voice introduced herself as Detective Alvarez and informed me Simone had been arrested at a luxury boutique, attempting to use my card after previous flagged transactions. She had multiple IDs in her purse and a notebook filled with names, figures, and disturbing notes. Simone called me from jail later that day. Her voice, usually so composed, was ragged with panic. She swore everything was a misunderstanding, that someone had framed her, that those extra IDs belonged to cousins. She insisted she loved me, that she was counting on me to post bail. "You know I am not that person," she whispered. "Please, baby, do not give up on us now." I listened quietly, my eyes burning. All the nights, the lies, the plans, the cruelty flashed through my mind. When she finally paused, I said softly that I would not be coming. Word spread quickly in quieter circles. Those same friends who had teased me about being too cautious with my heart now looked at me with a mix of pity and respect. Some admitted they had never liked Simone's energy, but did not know how to say it. My father came over with a bag of ribs and sat on my balcony in silence before finally telling me he was proud I had protected myself. I did not feel triumphant. I felt emptied out, like someone had pulled the thread of my future and left a pile of tangled yarn behind. Over the next few months, I focused on healing and untangling the mess. There were depositions, meetings with prosecutors, and uncomfortable questions about how long I had suspected and why I had stayed. Therapy helped me admit the truth. I wanted the dream so badly that I tried to reshape the nightmare into something livable. My therapist helped me separate my worth from what had happened, reminding me that being targeted did not mean I was weak. It meant I had something valuable that manipulative people wanted. That shift mattered more than I expected. Eventually, I decided to turn my experience into something more than private pain. I started a small podcast and blog series discussing financial boundaries, emotional manipulation, and romance fraud, using my story but changing names and details. People responded in ways I never anticipated. Messages poured in from men and women who had been exploited, some ashamed, some still in denial. Sharing my story did not erase the hurt, but it gave it purpose. I felt like I had reclaimed my narrative, no longer just the guy who got scammed, but the man who learned and helped others. One afternoon, a letter arrived from the correctional facility where Simone was being held. The handwriting was familiar, looping, confident. She wrote that she was sorry, that she had grown up learning to survive by any means necessary, that she never meant to hurt me that much. She claimed I was different. That part her feelings were real, and asked whether we could talk when she got out. I read every word slowly, waiting for some spark of hope or hunger. Instead, I felt only a quiet sadness for both of us. I tore the letter in half. Today, my accounts are secure, my credit restored, and my business thriving. I double-check everything, but not from fear, from respect for what I have survived. I still believe in love, but I now understand that trust without boundaries is not romance. It is surrender. Simone will likely spend years answering for what she did to me and others. That is her path. Mine is different. I got the last laugh, not through revenge or spectacle, but by refusing to stay broken. I walked through the fire, kept my future intact, and learned how to guard both my heart and my name. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.